It was past midnight in Chicago when everything inside me froze. The television was on just for noise, as usual, while I tried to finish the project that had kept me away from home for 3 weeks. The news anchor's voice suddenly cut through the room like a knife, reporting about a police raid at a prostitution den on the south side of town. 5 women had been arrested. I didn't care much at first, until the camera zoomed in on their faces. I felt my chest collapse. The third woman from the left was my wife, Emily. Few seconds I couldn't move. My hands shook so badly that the remote fell to the floor. I thought maybe my tired eyes were playing tricks, but even when I blinked, the image didn't change. Her brown hair, her birthmark on the cheek, the same black jacket I bought her for Christmas, it was all there. I turned up the volume, waiting for the reporter to say something that could make it make sense, but there was no sense. Just words like illegal business, undercover operation, 5 women charged. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called again and again until my fingers hurt, still off. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I tried to tell myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe she was at the wrong place, maybe the cops got the wrong person. But the photo on the TV didn't lie. My wife, the woman I had trusted with every piece of my life, was standing behind police tape, covering her face as cameras flashed. The clock showed 12:09 a.m. I sat on the edge of the bed, unable to think. Just a few hours earlier, I had texted her good night. She had sent me a heart emoji and said she missed me. Now, I was staring at her face on a news channel like she was a criminal. Emily and I had been married for 4 years. We met in a small diner outside Michigan when she was working as a waitress. I was traveling for work back then, fixing broken electrical systems in old hotels. She had this quiet smile, like she'd seen too much but still believed something good could happen. I fell for that look. She used to tell me that all she ever wanted was a peaceful home, a loyal man, and a life far from chaos. I believed her. When we moved to Chicago, I thought it was a new start. I got a decent job in construction management, and she stayed home mostly, sometimes working part-time in a local salon. Things were simple: coffee in the morning, dinner at 7, laughter about small things. But now, staring at her handcuffed image on the TV screen, I realized I never really knew who she was. I left for Chicago only 3 weeks ago for a special project. She had hugged me at the airport and said, "Come back soon, the house feels empty without you." I remember her perfume, the warmth of her arms. Everything felt real, and now all that was ashes in my mouth. I tried calling her best friend, Melissa. No answer. Then I called her brother in Ohio. He said he hadn't talked to Emily for days and asked me why I sounded panicked. I couldn't even explain it. How do you tell someone that the woman you love just got arrested for selling herself to strangers? I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every small moment in my head. The time she said she was going shopping, the night she said she couldn't sleep, the sudden new clothes I never saw receipts for. Every memory now felt poisoned, every smile fake. By morning, my world had already started breaking apart. The news was everywhere. Local stations ran the same footage again and again. Social media was flooded with comments. People in my office whispered behind my back. I could feel their eyes on me as if her sin was mine too. I took the first flight back home. I didn't even tell my boss. I just walked out of the site and drove to the airport like a man running from fire. The whole flight, my head spun with anger and disbelief. When I landed, the first place I went wasn't home, it was the police station. I needed to see her. I needed to know what she had done and why. They didn't let me meet her right away. The officer said she was still under questioning. I waited outside, my fists clenched, heart shaking like it wanted to escape. After 2 hours, a woman officer came out and asked if I was her husband. I nodded. She gave me a long look, part pity, part disgust. Then she said quietly, "You should prepare yourself. She's been doing this for a while." Her words hit harder than any punch. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She wasn't just caught by accident," the officer replied. "She was part of a bigger operation. We've been tracking that place for months. She wasn't a victim, she was involved." I felt the ground disappear beneath me. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to tear down the walls, but I just stood there silent. My wife, the same woman who made me believe in love again, had been selling her body behind my back. When I finally saw her, she looked nothing like the woman I remembered. Her hair was messy, eyes swollen from crying, but her face had this strange calmness. I walked up to the glass window, picked up the phone. She looked at me for a long second before speaking. "David," she whispered, "please listen." "No," I said coldly. "You listen. What the hell did you do?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "It wasn't what you think. I didn't have a choice." I slammed my hand against the glass. "Didn't have a choice. You had a husband, you had a home, you had everything." She shook her head slowly. "I owed money, David, before we got married. They came back for it. They said they'd kill me if I didn't pay." I stared at her, trying to understand, but the anger was too deep. "So you decided to pay with your body?" Her lips trembled. I was scared. Scared enough to sleep with strangers, scared enough to destroy everything we had, I shouted. The guards came over, telling me to calm down. I stepped back, my vision blurred with rage. Before leaving, she said something that burned inside me for days. "You were never there when I needed you. You left, David. I was alone." Those words haunted me. Maybe she was right. I had been too focused on building a future that I forgot the present. But still, betrayal was betrayal. She could have told me. She didn't. She lied again and again until the truth exploded on TV. I didn't go home after that. I couldn't. The house felt like a graveyard full of fake memories. Every photo, every pillow, every perfume bottle, everything reminded me of her. I checked our joint bank account. She had withdrawn almost $12,000 in the past 3 months. I never noticed. She said she was helping her mother with hospital bills. Now I knew where that money went. That night I sat in my car outside the house and made a decision. If she had destroyed my life, I would destroy the illusion of hers. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness, the same shame. Revenge wasn't planned. It was born inside me that moment. When she got bail 2 weeks later, I didn't visit. I didn't call. But I made sure everyone around her knew who she really was. I sent screenshots of the news articles to her friends, her church group, her workplace. I posted nothing under my name, but I watched it spread. She had built her life on lies, and I was just showing the truth. Days turned into weeks. My anger didn't cool. Instead, it sharpened. I started drinking, something I had never done before. Every sip made me remember her face behind that glass, the way she said I was never there. She wanted to make me feel guilty, but guilt can't live where betrayal lives. One night I drove past the same street where she'd been arrested. The place was quiet now, boarded up, with a "for lease" sign hanging on the broken door. I parked and just sat there, staring. That's when I saw a black car stop a few feet ahead. A man in a leather jacket stepped out, looked around, and disappeared down the alley. Something in me told me to follow. I found myself walking behind him, my hands cold, breath shallow. He knocked on a metal door, said something I couldn't hear, and went inside. I waited a few seconds, then walked closer. Through a crack, I saw him talking to someone, and that someone was Emily. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't scared. She was laughing. My heart turned to ice. She wasn't forced into anything. She was still part of it. Maybe she had lied to me even after everything. That night, I realized revenge wasn't enough. I wanted justice, my own kind. I followed her for days after that. I found where she stayed, who she met, what she did. Every lie unfolded like a bad movie. She had another phone, another life. I took pictures, notes, everything. I wanted to expose her completely. But something unexpected happened. As I watched her from afar, I started seeing the cracks. She wasn't just evil. She was broken, addicted, desperate, ruined by her choices. She had fallen too far to come back. And somehow that made me even angrier, because she had taken me down with her. One rainy evening, I walked up to her apartment door. She opened it, shocked to see me. Her eyes filled with fear, then pain. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I just said, "This is the last time I ever want to see you." She tried to hold my arm, crying, "Please, David, I can fix this. I just need help." "You already had my help," I said quietly. "You buried it." Then I left. I didn't turn back, but as I walked away, her sobs echoed down the hall. It should have felt like victory. It didn't. It felt empty. When I reached the street, I looked up at the dark sky and whispered, "You killed the man who loved you." That was the night I truly understood betrayal. It doesn't kill in one moment. It kills slowly, every time you remember the person you trusted most. It had been almost 6 years since that night in Chicago when I saw Emily on television. Time had done its best to bury the memories, but they never stayed buried. They floated up whenever life went quiet, when I was fixing a pipe at work, when the rain hit the window, when a stranger's perfume drifted through a crowd. I lived alone in a small apartment above an auto shop in Milwaukee. The city was calm, the streets anonymous, and that was enough for me. I didn't owe anyone explanations here. One morning in early December, a letter slipped under my door. The handwriting stopped me cold. I would have known it anywhere. Emily's. For a long moment I just stared at the envelope. I thought about tearing it up, but curiosity and some leftover pain made me open it. It said only a few words. "Please meet me once before I disappear again. I need to tell you the truth about that night. E." I folded the letter and sat back. My first instinct was anger, another trick, another attempt to pull me into her chaos. But there was something about the tone, something final, almost like goodbye. Against my better judgment, I went. We met at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. The snow outside made everything look softer than it really was. She was sitting by the window, wrapped in a gray coat. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner. For a moment, I didn't see the woman from the scandal or the liar from my nightmares. I saw the Emily I'd first fallen for in that Michigan diner, the one with a hopeful smile and tired eyes. I sat down without saying anything. She looked at me carefully, then said, "Thank you for coming." I didn't reply. She reached into her bag and placed an old envelope on the table. "Everything that happened wasn't just me," she said quietly. "That night you saw on TV, I wasn't supposed to be there. I went to help a friend. The cops stormed in before I could leave. And when they arrested me, the man behind it all made sure the story stayed that way. He paid the station to broadcast our faces." I frowned, unconvinced. Why would anyone do that? "Because he wanted to ruin me," she said, "and through me ruin you." She slid a photo from the envelope. The man in it was Vince, standing with someone else I didn't recognize. "That's him," she said. "The one who funded the place. The one who told the reporters my name. He worked with your company back then, David. You exposed him for fraud in one of your reports. He wanted payback." I stared at the photo, remembering the night I'd punched Vince outside that bar. He had laughed about her, mocked me, and I thought he was just another user. But maybe he had used both of us. Emily continued talking, her voice trembling but steady enough to sound real. "He trapped me after you left for Chicago, said he'd make sure you lost your job if I didn't play along. I thought I could fix it quietly. I was wrong." The room around me blurred. For years I had built my anger on the idea that she had betrayed me. Now, if what she was saying was true, my hatred had been aimed at the wrong person. "Why didn't you tell me then?" I asked finally. She looked down. "Because you already hated me, and I thought you deserved a clean life, even if it meant becoming the villain in your story." I couldn't find words. For the first time in years, my chest hurt in a different way, not from rage, but from regret. We sat in silence for a long time, the snow outside falling heavier, covering the world in white. Then she said softly, "He's still out there, David. He's running a new ring under another name. I've been helping the feds build a case. I needed you to know before it ends." "Before it ends," I repeated. She smiled faintly, tiredly. "They told me last month the cancer's back. Liver this time. I don't have much longer." Those words hit harder than any confession. She reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. It was cold but still familiar. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said. "I just didn't want to die with you believing I sold you out for money." I looked at her, trying to hate her again, but I couldn't. Too many years had passed. Too much pain had already been spent. When we left the cafe, the snow was knee-deep. She turned once at the corner and waved. That was the last time I saw her alive. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a federal agent who confirmed what she'd told me. Vince had been arrested in a multi-state trafficking investigation. Emily had given them the evidence. She'd done it quietly, without asking anything in return. The next day I received another letter mailed before she died. Inside was a small key and a note. "Locker 12, Union Station. You'll understand." I went. Inside the locker was a small box containing our wedding rings, a bundle of old photos, and a diary. The last entry read, "If he ever reads this, I hope he knows I loved him, even when I didn't deserve to." I stood there for a long time, holding that diary, feeling a strange mixture of peace and heartbreak. The revenge that once kept me alive suddenly felt meaningless. All those years of anger, all those nights of hatred, it had all been built on half a truth. I went to her funeral quietly, stood at the back and said nothing. No one recognized me. When the priest said her name, I closed my eyes and whispered a goodbye she'd never hear. Afterward, I drove back to the lake where we once spent summers fishing. I opened the box and dropped our rings into the water. They sank quickly, swallowed by the gray surface. It felt like releasing ghosts. I still live in Milwaukee. I still fix cars. But sometimes, late at night, I drive back to that cafe and sit by the same window where she once told me the truth. I order black coffee, the way she used to, and watch the snow fall. People say forgiveness is freedom. Maybe it is. But for me, forgiveness came too late. I learned that revenge can keep you alive, but only love, honest love, can save what's left of your soul. Every winter, when the city turns white again, I remember her handwriting on that last letter. "Please meet me once before I disappear." And I realize now she never really disappeared. She just left her story inside mine, quiet, tragic, and forever unfinished. The following weeks passed like smoke in my lungs. I kept working during the day, pretending to be fine, but every night the ghosts came back. I couldn't sleep without seeing Emily's face, her lies, her fake tears, her laughter with strangers. I thought leaving her behind would end the pain. But betrayal doesn't stay in the past. It grows inside you until it turns you into someone else. I started writing everything down. Every word she said, every memory, every photo I took. It wasn't just for myself, it was evidence. I wanted the world to know who she really was. The woman who had destroyed her marriage, who had sold not just her body but my trust. I mailed anonymous letters to her mother, her pastor, her old friends. Each letter contained the truth she tried to bury. I didn't sign them, I didn't need to. The shame itself carried my name. But one evening I got a call from an unknown number. When I picked up, a deep voice said, "You should stop digging into her life, David. You don't know who you're messing with." Then the line went dead. At first I thought it was some sick prank. But 2 nights later my car's windshield was smashed and a note was stuck under the wiper. It said, "We warned you." I realized then that Emily wasn't alone. The people she had worked for or with were still watching. Maybe she wasn't lying when she said she owed them. Maybe she was trapped deeper than I imagined. But that didn't erase what she had done to me. She could have come clean. She could have told me before turning our marriage into a lie. I went to the police, showed them the note, the photos, everything. They told me they'd look into it, but their eyes said something else. They didn't care. To them, it was just another domestic mess. After that, I moved into a small apartment on the north side of Chicago. I quit my job, started working nights in a repair shop. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at the empty space beside me, remembering how Emily used to sleep with her hand on my chest, how her voice used to calm me. And then I'd remember the TV screen, her face behind police lights, and the calm would turn to rage again. One night around 2 a.m. I saw her name on the news again. Another raid, another set of arrests, but this time she wasn't among them. The reporter said one of the women had given up a list of clients and handlers. I froze. Emily had once told me about a man named Vince, a friend who helped her with bills. Maybe he was one of them. I started to think maybe she wasn't the only one who deserved to fall. So I went looking for Vince. It took weeks. I searched through social media, through names mentioned in police reports, through small bars and motels in the South. Finally, I found him tall, smug, with tattoos crawling up his neck. He was sitting at a bar, laughing with a woman half his age. I sat a few seats away, watching. When he went out to smoke, I followed. "You Vince?" I asked. He turned, looked me up and down, and smirked. "Who's asking?" "Her husband," I said. "Emily's husband." He paused for a second, then laughed, a cold, cruel laugh that still echoes in my head. "Oh man, that one. She was fun. Shame she couldn't keep her mouth shut." Before I knew it, my fist had smashed into his face. He fell, blood spilling from his nose. I hit him again, years of rage bursting out of me. I wanted to kill him. I wanted him to feel every ounce of humiliation I had carried. People shouted, someone pulled me back, but I kept struggling to break free. The cops came, of course. They handcuffed me and dragged me away like I was the criminal. At the station, they booked me for assault. Vince didn't press charges. Maybe he was too scared, or maybe he knew he deserved it. They let me go with a warning. But that night, when I walked out of the station, I saw Emily waiting near the steps. She looked thinner, older, broken. "David," she whispered, "please stop doing this to yourself." "To myself," I laughed bitterly. "You did this to me." "I know," she said softly, "and I'll never forgive myself, but you can't keep living in revenge. They'll come after you next." I stared at her for a long time. "Why do you even care?" "Because despite everything," she said, her voice shaking, "I still love you." Those words hit harder than anything. I wanted to believe her, but love from her sounded like poison now. "Love," I said quietly, "you ruined that word." Then I walked away. After that night, something changed inside me. I stopped chasing revenge. I started chasing peace, but peace doesn't come easily when your soul been burned. I began seeing her everywhere, in reflections, in dreams, in random voices at night. It was like she lived inside my guilt now. A few months passed. I got a new job in a smaller town near Milwaukee, a place where nobody knew me, where I could start over. I thought maybe distance would help, but the past has a way of finding you even when you run miles away. One afternoon, I got a letter. No name on the envelope, just my address. Inside, there was a single photo, Emily, lying on a hospital bed. Her eyes were closed, a breathing tube in her mouth. The note below said, "She tried to end it. She's in County General." I didn't think, I just drove. It was a 2-hour drive but felt like seconds. When I reached the hospital, she was barely conscious. Her wrists were bandaged. When she saw me, tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't want you to see me like this," she whispered. "Then why did you send me the photo?" She smiled weakly. "Because I wanted to say sorry one last time." I sat beside her bed, not knowing what to say. For the first time, she looked honest. No lies, no makeup, no defenses, just broken truth. "I ruined everything," she said. "You didn't deserve what I did. I thought I could fix my problems alone. I thought I could protect you by hiding it, but I only destroyed you." I took her hand. "You didn't destroy me, Emily. You destroyed yourself." She closed her eyes. "Maybe that's what I deserve." She recovered slowly after that, but something inside her was gone. She left Chicago and moved somewhere south. I never saw her again, but sometimes she'd send me small letters, just random apologies, written in shaky handwriting. I never replied. Some wounds aren't meant to heal. Years passed. I built a new life, but trust never came back. Every smile reminded me of her lies. Every touch reminded me of her betrayal. I tried dating again, but the moment a woman said, "I love you," I froze. Those words no longer felt warm, they felt dangerous. Sometimes, late at night, I drive past the old neighborhood in Chicago. The house we once shared is gone now, replaced by a new building. But when I stop there and close my eyes, I can still hear her laughter from the kitchen, smell her perfume in the hall, feel the ghost of the life I once believed in. I tell myself I've moved on, that revenge isn't part of me anymore. But deep down, I know, the man I used to be died the night she appeared on that TV screen. The man who survived is colder, harder, and forever cautious. Betrayal doesn't end when the story ends. It lives quietly in your blood, reminding you not to trust warmth again. And sometimes when I see a woman in a black jacket walking down the street, I look twice, half expecting it to be her. Half hoping it is.